Hey MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology for another quick MMT chat. My guests today are from the Plastek Group in Erie, Pennsylvania. So meet Dennis Prischak, President and CEO, Douglas Prischak, Vice President of Global Tooling and Engineering, Donald Prischak, Vice President of Sales and Marketing, and Daniel Prischak, Vice President of Manufacturing.
Hi, everybody.
Now, you might wonder what's so special about this group of gentlemen. Well, it's because I go way back to 1997 with these guys because of their father, Joe Prischak, who is the original founder of MoldMaking Technology, who invited me to join him on his crusade to launch a trade publication just for mold making, and who I still stay in touch with today. It's an amazing family with an innovative suite of companies within the plastics and the mold making industries, including the Plastek Group, Triangle Tool, and Penn Erie, for example. So long story short, how could I not do an MMT chat with them? Especially since I've learned recently they have a lot of new things going on right now. So welcome, Prischak brothers.
Thank you.
Christina. Great to see you again.
You too. So why don't we jump right in with Daniel? Why don't we talk about, since COVID continues to have such an impact across manufacturing, let's start with that. So Daniel, how is business overall?
Overall, business is good. We were designated as a company that didn't have to shut down. We were able to keep operating. I guess we're essential business, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we were able to keep operating. Our concerns were, with the mass amount of people we have, how are we going to keep everybody safe? With something we didn't know much about in the beginning, our goal was to keep everybody safe and healthy and able to keep operating. We started out with daily meetings on a global basis because we're a global company.
Right.
We started out with daily meetings just to discuss this, what was new, what was going on. As guidelines came out, you know, we made sure we complied with everything, and in some instances we're ahead of that with making our employees wear masks. When the social distancing thing came out, I went for a walk on the floor and thought, well, how are people going to know what 6 feet is, right? I was walking side by side with somebody. I'm like, well, how is somebody going to know what 6 feet is? So we took all of our walking spaces and literally put hash marks every 6 feet, everywhere you could walk. Where you couldn't walk side by side and keep 6 feet apart, we made one-way traffic areas where where you had to step in and away from people so that other people could pass. We really focused on the social distancing and the masks right from the get-go. So that was kind of difficult on people. People aren't used to wearing masks. They're not used to wearing face shields. They're used to standing and talking. People need to be together, not kept apart. So the whole social distancing and the whole mask thing was really a difficult thing to get people in the routine, and 6 feet apart was such a big thing. We had lockers that were spaced real close together that we said, okay, only groups of people can go to this locker at a time. Our cafeterias, our break rooms with picnic tables weren't set up for social distancing. We had to take parts of the warehouse and open that up so that people could have a break area. You know, when you're used to 6 people sitting at a picnic table, and now you can only have 2 people sitting at a picnic table. Right. There were challenges there just to try and keep people separated, let alone trying to keep them doing the jobs that they needed to do, which our people really did rise to the occasion and continued on and did their jobs that they needed to do. But the whole social distancing, the masking, the meetings, the daily meetings with everybody, had a great impact on our manufacturing.
So I get that, and that seems to be a struggle across many shops. So that impacts leadership tremendously, I would imagine. Like, how did leadership step in? You know, it's one thing to keep employees safe, but it's also keeping them happy, keeping them comfortable, and keeping them motivated during this. So how did leadership step in and kind of keep the company together during this time?
A lot of pep talks, a lot of information. We kept them informed with everything that was going on. We kept them in the loop. We let them know what our expectations were and why, with all the guidelines and everything. We also had a couple incentive plans for the employees where we increased their hourly pay.
Oh.
To kind of recognize, look, we know a lot of other people aren't required to come to work, but you're being required to come to work. And through all of this, so we gave them an incentive in pay. And then we also tried to help them out if they had to quarantine for a certain period of time. We paid them through that as well. So we tried to help them both financially and keeping them informed with everything that was going on.
That's great communication. I love
it. It was difficult with the masks and the shields. It's difficult.
Yeah, I know. I just on a personal level.
To see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's just even as a common citizen, it's been tough. Just trying to go around and do normal things in life. It just presents a weird challenge. So I can't imagine in a shop, in a manufacturing environment with that on the scale of what you guys do and the amount of people, what that could possibly look like even.
It's anything but normal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
it's anything but normal.
So how about over to Doug? So Doug, let's talk a little bit about any kind of, I keep calling them virus-related projects, but there's been a lot of work out there. A lot of mold builders and molders have been very busy. And I think it's brought some new life into some shops just in terms of employees really recognizing the impact they have personally on products that really matter, right? That are saving lives and preventing something. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point to one of the projects that we undertook when this whole COVID thing hit. As you know, there was a shortage of a lot of PPE equipment, and we had been working with one of our suppliers on a separate project, and we got to talking about some of the equipment that they had started to look into making. And so the conversation went a little further, and they started working on making a face shield. So when we were talking about it, we were saying, well, what's available out there? What can we do? How can we step in that? And we found out that there were some open source CAD files for face shields. And so we shared that file and we looked it over, and we thought, well, we could probably do this pretty quickly. There was a real urgent need for this. There was a lot of shortages. So within 5 days, we had downloaded that app, open source CAD, and we didn't take our normal route. We kind of took a separate path to manufacturing it. But long story short, within 5 days, we started production with face shields, and we had committed during the time that 5 days we were building it. We worked with some of the local hospitals and some of the hospitals on the East Coast that were really facing some problems in New York and New Jersey and Philadelphia. And we ended up donating by, like, I think day number 8 or 9, the first 3,000 face shields. And at the end of the day, when all was said and done, we donated over 25,000 face shields to 6 different hospitals and to different clinics that were doing testing, COVID testing, and they didn't have the equipment. So there was just a great demand for it. Everyone was definitely interested in it. And the great thing about that too was that 5 days that it took us to actually build the mold.
Right.
I have never seen our employees so enthused about doing something. I mean, they all, back to your point, they all knew that they were doing something that was really meaningful and had an immediate impact. So I can't say enough about how they stepped up and how they really took the challenge to get that job done. And it was just really amazing to see them. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you learn anything specific about your people or the process, the way you go about a tool build that you can bring to, normal projects, in normal times, or no?
Yeah, no, actually we did. A part of going fast in this case was not having our design team be the people that did the design work on an existing tool. So what that allowed us to do was to say, okay, we can look deeper into our organization and find ways of getting things about the design done, but not necessarily the design team, because we use the folks in the tool room, the ones that work on the CAM system and the CADs there to help us. So we found a way of expanding our existing resources and utilizing them in a much more efficient way to get things done quicker. And the entire time, we didn't sidestep any of our normal protocol for following our engineering practices to keep our CAD files up to date, to keep the associativity between our CAD and our CAM there. We maintained all of that while still going a lot quicker than we normally have. So we absolutely have learned a better way and a new way to operate in some instances.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right, to any of you, moving forward, what is your single biggest concern about, or that's related to the coronavirus for the company?
If I can just jump in real quick, first of all, I want to just thank everybody at Plastek throughout this whole situation. I mean, the folks that we had stepped up. Douglas, he was talking about the face masks. We donated thousands into the UK and into Mexico as well too. But the effort that everybody went through was just really short of heroic. I think what I worry a little bit about is we're learning a lot about how to work from home. Zoom and GoToMeetings and all of this is really good, and it's brought, I think, a new step in communication and so forth. But you worry about the collaboration. I know we can collaborate here well, but everything has to be intentional this way. You miss, as I say, the water cooler stuff or popping in, and there's a lot of things that are missed. The interruptions are not missed, right? Because there's fewer interruptions too. So it's a balance. And I think, it works real well when we all know each other and you've already established some relationships. I think, the worry is you lose culture over time. The next group of people coming in may or may not get that feeling, that, as a family business, we have that feeling, that camaraderie, we all know each other really well. And I fear losing some of that, as well as some of the things that you just pick up by casual conversation. If we did all this by email, we wouldn't be getting this, and we're missing some of that at that other level too. So I worry about that a lot.
I worry about the health. I worry about the health and well-being of the people. We still don't know enough about this disease. We know it killed over 180,000 American people. My concern is for the people. I think they need to continue to stay on guard and be cautious of what's going on around them and not get complacent. I want people to stay healthy and stay alive. That's my biggest fear is just for the health of the people.
Right. I think that's a nice balance, right? Mm-hmm. Really, between what Dennis said and what you said, that's kind of what you need within the company. You need your eyes on all of it. How about Donald or Doug?
I said I care about the people too.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Thanks, one up. You got it. That's okay.
Yeah, no, I would just echo what they say. I mean, it's just keeping people safe and just getting through this. It's going to end hopefully soon enough, but we got to get through it safely as a company.
Yep, agreed. All right, so now since I'm with MoldMaking Technology, we got to get into some of your mold making related innovations and trends. And I know, Douglas, that's you. So I know I read about how, actually, the last time I was there too, you talked about this with me, how you design and build molds for in-press maintenance and the whole concept of the component interchangeability. So let's talk about, what does that mean to your customer and explain what that is.
Yeah, sure. So in-press mold maintenance and designing molds as such is something actually we've been doing for decades. It was something that Triangle Tool pioneered back in the late 50s, and the molds that they were doing at that time lent themselves to be designed such that they could maintain them in the press, and it was a great concept, great idea, and it's something that we've been doing ever since. Is designing molds so that they can be maintained in press. With that, the interchangeability of components is significant, is critical. You have to be able to have reliable spares on the shelf, and every component has to fit just right. So the tolerancing that we have to hold to maintain interchangeability during and in mold maintenance is significant. We pay a lot of attention to that. The other benefits to it are that the cavitation levels that we have our customers can achieve is significant. I mean, if you have the ability to not shut a mold down for 14 hours just to recover 2 or 3 cavities, but you can do that in an hour and a half, it's a significant benefit. It goes without saying.
Yes.
One of the other things that came to light, and it was during some of the peak demand of some of our customers, during some of it during the COVID even, we weren't able to have our mold shut down. So by having impress maintenance during those peak demands, when they're insisting that you can't shut the mold down, even though the mold was due then for its scheduled PM,
Right.
they don't let you shut it down. It helps you to still maintain the mold while keeping it in the press and running. You shut it down for a little while, but you can maintain the mold in a better condition through the scheduled PM, and you can meet that demand. So, that's another big benefit from it. And then, of course, impress maintenance allows you to maintain the molds more frequently, on a more frequent basis in the press, and that increases the longevity of the tool, right? So if you're constantly cleaning it, you're getting that gas out of there that creates problems for your shutoffs and the clamp pressure, hobbing in the steel. By maintaining those in the press and changing in new components for older components, cleaning the gas buildup, you just maintain, you have a much longer life on that tool than you otherwise would. So, those are a lot of benefits.
Yeah, it is amazing still today. Like, mold maintenance is still the most searched and the hottest top. I mean, it crosses, mold shops and the tool rooms and molding facilities. It's that uniting aspect of the mold manufacturing process. But it is amazing to me how much that is still not done the way it should be done. So the fact that you're developing tooling with that in mind is just, everybody should be doing that, because it lightens that load a little bit, right? In some regards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I read this somewhere too, and you're going to have to explain this to me, because I want to understand the value. And I'm assuming this has to deal with the Plastek Group and all the companies that are involved and how you all have to work together. It's this accessible communication, right? And this convenient on-site maneuverability. And is that about the flow of information that you need across all the companies when it comes to designing, building, and producing parts? Is that what we're talking about there?
Yeah. So one of the benefits that we have as a integrated molder and mold builder is that we have access to a lot of knowledge from our molding production folks. Like, we meet regularly. We're either going over there and going out on the floor and working with them on tools and designs, or they're coming over and we're just meeting on a regular basis to go through our mold designs and to try and understand what works and what doesn't. How can we continually improve things? So by having that knowledge base of employees that can give us the immediate firsthand feedback on our molds, allows us to continuously improve our mold design and our mold build, and we can put that latest technology into the molds. So having access to that information from that production group benefits us as a mold builder, and our customers that buy molds from us. They get the benefit of having our knowledge, our employees' experience in molding across their molds. So it's a huge benefit to us.
It's like a continuous feedback loop, really, right? Of all that information you're sharing. All right. So speaking of the experience and expertise and of all your teams and the Plastek Group network, meaning your customers, suppliers, I have to think, Don, that a lot of that is part of the motivation of this new free Plastek Academy I just learned about. So can you talk about what this program is and why it came about, and what can somebody expect to see if they sign up to participate?
Sure. Thank you, first of all, Christina. It's good to see you again. As it relates to our Plastek Academy, right when COVID hit, as our salespeople, nobody wants to see a salesperson in the office, right? I mean, I know my brothers hated to see a sales guy in the office, or a woman. But when COVID hit and everybody kind of said, pull back the reins of traveling and everything like that, understandably so, we needed to find a way to communicate to our customers and prospective customers to say, hey, we're still out here. We want to introduce you to some of our technology or what we're doing still. We may not physically be able to get next to you and talk to you and see you, because that's important to me and to everybody. And there was a way for us to do it. And then we started thinking about, I should say, is that, if you do a year seminar, just to pick the date, a year seminar, there's only so much we could talk about as plastic, as a tool builder or a molder.
Okay.
So the process came, Christina, is that, you know what, let's get some of our key suppliers in there to talk about what they're doing too. Because if a Mold Master or a Millicron or UCC or whoever it may be, KW Plastics, has something out there, it may benefit all of our customers. So the genesis of the whole thing was to stay in front of people that we normally would be face to face on a day-to-day basis. And it's not out there right now. It's a good way to communicate.
Yeah. Do you see this going on beyond COVID's impact and continuing this for the long run?
Well, right now we're scheduled for 13 months. The first one starts September 17th at 11 a.m. Please register if you haven't anybody. It's going to be a process flow for us for Plastek, our process flow from industrial design to tool build. But then each one of them, so it's a total of 13 months. The last one is a wrap up for more Q&As because we're going to allow that during the process of each one that, you know, if somebody may have a question, we'll answer it during the webinar. Okay. But, you know, who knows? But if it turns out good, yes, our expectation is it would last in the future.
Where can they go? Is it just Plastek? Is it Plastek Academy.com or what's the URL?
If you go to our website, www.plastekgroup.com, you can register there. And there's in many trade magazines like yours, it's coming out there too. They can see the advertising here. But the quickest way to do it is to go to our website to sign up. So
okay. I think it's brilliant, especially there's so much virtual learning out there. And I think the more people in terms of our world of manufacturing, mold making, and molding, the more you can get out there, I think it's the better because people, I mean, as you know, all the big trade shows and conferences that people depend on, which I still hope they come back because what Dennis said earlier, we need to be with people to really learn. But in lieu of that, I think this is a phenomenal initiative to just education. It's all about education right now. So thank you for that. And we will continue to help promote that for you guys also.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
So lastly, another piece of recent news, which I know very little about, Dennis, is this, I know it's your father back there, Joe, who wandered in. Joe and I talked about a month ago, and Joe, I think you alluded to something. I'm assuming it was this new recycling startup. Yep. So Dennis, can you give us some background on this project and where it stands today?
Exciting. I mean, it's exciting for, you know, somebody in the plastics industry, somebody here in Erie, for the history of plastics here in Erie, going back to my dad and Triangle Tool in the 50s and what a hub Erie has been over the years. It's exciting to kind of be, and of course with Penn State Barron here and the College of Plastics Engineering here, I mean, Erie does have a tremendous amount of history going back into the 30s with the second injection molding machine running in the country at Erie Resistor where my dad worked. So to be potentially part of yet another, what? Yep. So to potentially be part of yet another chapter in that history, namely the sustainability and recycling part of it is really, really exciting. And the background and genesis of that came about a year ago, and it's amazing how fast a year goes, but it's a year now, this month, or last month now, that Erie had like an investment opportunity showcase, something called Erie Homecoming, where they're trying to generate investment and so forth. And it showcased a number of opportunity zones and other investment opportunities. And a group from something called Industrial Recycling or International Recycling, sorry, Mitch, International Recycling Group came to Erie. And unfortunately, we weren't able to attend. But one of the people there, the Erie Innovation District, hooked us up afterwards because they had something related to plastics and recycling, and they knew of us because we were involved with them in other areas. And so we hooked up and started, you know, learning a little bit more about this new and exciting way of not only recycling. It's not so much new recycling and new IP or any of that, but it's another potential use for scrap plastics, yet mining more of the valuable plastics. So the guys from International Recycling Group are basically steel executives or former steel executives in the steel industry, of course, and they found a way of using scrap plastic in a blast furnace to help manufacture iron. So what the theory behind all of this is, right now, plastics are recycled at the initial recycling facilities where you send all your stuff to, and they recycle out the PET and the polyethylenes, which are the higher value ones, although the recycling rates on those are still extremely low. A lot of headroom there. And of course, now with rigid packaging, polypropylene is becoming more valuable. So we're going to take, or they're going to take, some of the plastic scrap that has already been recycled once and mined once for PET and polyethylene, where those guys will take it and sell it and use it. And what would have then been baled up and sent to a landfill will now come to IRG and be recycled again. And so then a secondary sort at what we're going to call a super plastics recycling factory, or super perf, will mine the PE and the PET again, grab some polypropylene and still try to sell that on the market. And then all of this scrap, the nylons and the polystyrenes and all the other film, things that would then go into a landfill, will then be ground up and then sent to a blast furnace at the various steel mills and used and injected into their blast furnaces to make iron. It lowers their CO2 emissions.
Okay.
There's no burning. This is not used as, it's not burned as a fuel for some other process, so there's no emissions. It's injected into a zero oxygen, high temp blast furnace, and it helps them lower the footprint, their CO2 footprint, because they're not now mining the coal or drilling for natural gas, which this will replace. So the concept is to take it from the initial recycling factories, recycle it again, sell what you can, and then give the rest or sell the rest to the steel industry to inject into the blast. So nothing goes to the landfill.
Yeah. It's like we've all been waiting for this, right? It's like we've all been waiting for this type of a solution.
Yes, and it's a connection between the steel industry and the plastics industry that really never was there before. And when you ask these guys why, it's like, well, the steel industry and the plastics industry were really competitors. So nobody was sitting there thinking, how am I going to make friends and work together with the plastics industry? Because plastics was and probably still continues to take, market share from some of the products that they would make, So there was never that big rationale or reason to get together and figure out this kind of a solution. So it really took these guys coming from the steel industry to kind of make that connection. And, it's pretty interesting. It checks so many boxes. Simultaneously last year, we were at some meetings with some of our customers, and clearly sustainability and recyclability have become really hot topics for all the right reasons.
Yep.
And, they're doing an awful lot, on their end, and trying to use post-consumer resin or develop new processes to turn things into virgin material and so forth. And so they were saying, hey, Plastek, what are you doing? You're a big part of all of this, and, you better be doing something. And so, you sit there and you think of that, and then this opportunity, comes along. Like my dad says, he said, I'd rather be lucky than good. Not a lot of people say that, but it took a lot of hard work after this lucky chance of a meeting that's now progressed a year. And, they're looking to build this factory here in Erie, a first phase. There's more phases. It brings jobs. It'll bring great paying jobs. It checks the sustainability. It checks all the right boxes for all the right reasons. So, they've got agreements with steel companies, around the world, the big ones, ArcelorMittal, US Steel, Stelco up in Canada. Of interesting note too is they want to ultimately barge some of the steel across the lake into Canada using old shipping lanes that they had 100 years ago when Erie was a big shipping port. So, there's kind of a lot of different connections. And then certainly, using Penn State here and their, their tremendous plastics engineering program, which my dad helped found here 30 some years ago as well. There's just a lot of touch points. And so, we're excited to have helped brought some of this together and are, looking forward to seeing it progress. So
it is very exciting. That's probably the most exciting development just in terms of what people are talking about nowadays, and that you're in it and providing a solution. That's huge. You guys are always doing something new and something different. I feel like you're always one step ahead. So good for you guys for doing that.
Yeah, it's exciting times, really exciting times in all these areas.
I agree.
Not the least of which is COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get through this. We're going to get through, everybody will get through it. We'll get to the other side. We will learn a lot of stuff from it, no doubt. And we'll all be stronger for it.
Exactly. Well, that's a great way to end this. You guys, my boys, my Prischak boys, thank you so much to the Prischak family, the brothers, for your time today. It's actually an honor to get all of you on the line together and to promote Plastek and Triangle and Penn Erie and everything you're doing. So I thank each of you for spending the time with me today.
We're all kind of grounded right now, so.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So you're doing me a favor. So to all that watching, remember, for everything mold making, visit MoldMakingTechnology.com. Stay safe and healthy, and more importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.